Welcome back to the show. We have a particularly complex case to examine today. It's a story that held the attention of New Zealand for exactly 4 years, almost to the day.
Yes, it is a highly documented saga. It began as a mystery, turned into a frustrated search, evolved into a criminal manhunt, and ended in a confrontation that the country is still analyzing.
Yeah, we're looking at the Phillips family disappearances, and what we're going to do today is walk through that timeline in its entirety for you.
We have a consolidated record to reference. This
Yeah.
includes reports on police operations, court documents, public sightings, and the final inquiry details.
Right. Our objective here is to piece together how a family dispute in a rural farming community spiraled into armed robbery and a shootout with police.
It is essential to look at this chronologically to understand that evolution.
Exactly.
When you view the events in order, the escalation of behavior is clear. It shifts from a missing persons case focusing on welfare to a criminal pursuit where public safety becomes the primary concern.
Yeah, so before we get into the disappearance itself, you need to understand the central figures. The focus is on Tom Phillips.
He is the primary actor in these events.
Right. And at the start of this, he was living in Tauranga, down in the Waikato region. He was a father of 3 children who, at the time this all started back in 2021, were just 6, 7, and 9 years old.
The ages of the children are a critical factor in the logistics of the entire 4-year period.
And it's important to note for you listening that Phillips wasn't just some random suburban guy. He had a very specific set of skills that became incredibly relevant later on.
He was an experienced hunter and a camper.
Yeah, he had been homeschooling the children too.
Mm.
And he was from a family that had farmed in the Marokopa area for generations.
That local knowledge is fundamental. He knew the land intimately. He was educated at St. Paul's Collegiate School, but his life was clearly rooted in the outdoors.
He had been separated from his wife, Catherine, who goes by Cat, for several years. So the context you have to picture involves a split family, a father with intense outdoor skills, and a very rugged, isolated landscape.
The geography of the Marokopa district plays a significant role in the duration of this evasion.
It really does. For those of you not familiar with the Western Waikato, it is seriously rugged country. I mean, it consists of dense bush, coastline, and just sprawling farmland.
It features karst landscapes. That means there are limestone caves, sinkholes, and complex underground drainage systems.
Right. It's the kind of place where if you want to remain unseen.
And you possess the necessary skills.
Yes, exactly. If you have those skills, you can stay hidden for a long time. It is not easily accessible terrain for standard search operations.
Standard grid searches are nearly impossible in that density of bush.
So let's go back to where it all began. September 11, 2021. This marks the first disappearance. The family, Tom and the 3 kids, are last seen at the family farm. Then there's just silence.
A complete cessation of communication.
Yeah. 2 days later, on September 13, the situation takes a turn that really suggests a tragedy. Their vehicle, a Toyota Hilux, is found at Karaitahire Beach.
The positioning of that vehicle was a critical piece of staging.
Right. It was parked right below the tide line. The waves were literally battering it. To any first responder arriving on that scene, the immediate assessment is that the occupants have gone into the water.
There was a specific detail intended to reinforce that assessment. The keys were left under the driver's side mat.
It looked exactly like someone had parked the car, left the keys, and walked into the ocean with 3 kids. The response was massive. The police launched a full-scale search operation immediately.
In New Zealand, when an event like this occurs in a culturally significant area, specific protocols are enacted. A rahui was placed on the area.
And for those who might not know, a rahui is a cultural restriction. It's usually placed by local Maori tribes, prohibiting activity in an area where a tragedy has occurred, partly out of respect and partly to protect the area.
In this specific case, it disrupted the local whitebait fishing season. The placement of the rahu signifies that the community genuinely believed a death had occurred.
The search assets deployed by the government were just huge. The operation included a plane, a helicopter, jet skis, and inflatable rescue boats.
They also utilized heat-detecting drones to scan the coastline and the surrounding bush canopy.
They were actively looking for bodies, or maybe survivors clinging to rocks. The working theory across the board was that they were swept out to sea.
The search continued for consecutive days with no results.
None at all. By September 24, which is nearly 2 weeks later, the daily physical searches were suspended. They had found absolutely no trace.
The main search base at Marokopa Hall was stood down.
This just left the family, the mother, and the entire community in a state of mourning. They thought they were gone. Then, 19 days after they vanished, on September 30, the situation changes completely.
They reappeared.
Yeah. Tom Phillips and the three kids were seen riding a bike on Mangatoa Road. They eventually just walked right through the door of the family farm.
The explanation Phillips provided at the time to authorities was extremely brief.
He literally just stated he wanted, quote, space to clear his head, unquote. It was revealed that they hadn't been in the ocean at all.
They had been living in a tent.
Right, about 15 kilometers inland from where that ute was found, getting smashed by the waves on the beach.
The physical condition of the children upon return is a highly relevant data point. They were examined and found to be healthy.
Their grandmother actually described them as energetic and just as bouncy as ever. Physically, they were totally fine.
However, the financial cost of the search was estimated in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And that led to a massive shift in the public response and the legal response. Police charged Phillips with wasting police resources.
A friend of his actually attempted to claim the ute had been stolen and dumped on the beach by someone else while Phillips was camping.
But the police did not accept that explanation at all. He was given a court date for November, which was then delayed to January 2022 because of COVID-19 restrictions at the time.
The charge of wasting police resources requires a deliberate act. Phillips had taken his children into the bush for nearly 3 weeks, off the grid, without notifying anyone.
And while camping obviously isn't illegal, the staging of the abandoned car really suggested a deliberate intent to mislead the authorities.
It implies that the person knowingly caused a deployment of personnel and equipment for a false alarm.
Right, because if a helicopter is searching for someone who is hiding on purpose, it isn't available for a genuine emergency elsewhere. That brings us to the second phase of this timeline, the second disappearance.
This occurred on December 9, 2021.
That is less than 3 months after they returned the first time. The tension was already high.
The police response was notably different in this second instance. When they left on December 9, no immediate search was initiated.
Which surprised a lot of people at the time. But the police stated that Phillips had notified his family of his whereabouts. Technically, at that exact moment in December, he was not violating his bail conditions.
This is a strict nuance of the legal system. Unless there is a specific court order restricting movement, such as a curfew, an adult is generally free to travel.
Right. The police were constrained by the fact that he hadn't technically committed a new offense yet. That situation completely changed in the new year, January 12, 2022.
That was the rescheduled court date for the wasting police resources charge.
And Tom Phillips failed to appear. That is the moment everything pivots.
It represents the definitive legal turning point. Once he missed that court date, a formal warrant was issued for his arrest.
He transitioned right there from a person of interest who was just camping to a fugitive actively avoiding court. Even his lawyer hadn't been in contact with him.
A warrant to arrest is a directive to law enforcement to locate and detain the individual. It removes any previous ambiguity.
Signs of a much longer-term plan began to emerge at this point. Later in January, his ute was found on Mangatoa Road again. It was abandoned again.
However, he did return briefly in February.
Yeah, he returned to the family home in the middle of the night on February 9. He was only there for approximately 1 hour.
He returned specifically to acquire supplies. He informed his family the children were safe, but explicitly did not disclose their location.
And his appearance had changed significantly. He had grown a full beard.
This indicated he had been living outdoors for weeks and was preparing to remain hidden for a prolonged period.
Knowing there is an active warrant means you cannot use a bank account, you cannot visit a doctor, and you cannot be seen in public.
It forces a person entirely underground. That brief visit in February was the last time his family would see him for a very long time. The police still believed he was staying within the western Waikato area.
Specifically within Marokopa or the immediately surrounding dense bush.
They didn't think he had fled the country or even moved to the South Island. They operated on the firm assumption that he was local.
There was an active theory held by authorities, including the Sorahanga mayor, that Phillips was receiving assistance. Right, because staying hidden with 3 growing children for that duration, in that kind of terrain, is incredibly difficult without some sort of logistical support.
It requires food, clothing replacement, and medical supplies.
During 2022, public sentiment really started to shift. The older half-sisters of the children launched a petition in May, formally requesting the government to take further action.
The police also appeared on the television program 10/7 Aotearoa, appealing for any public information.
There were reported sightings in May, but none of them could be substantiated. The maternal family even attempted to organize their own independent search in June.
That search was ultimately canceled due to police concerns regarding public safety in that terrain.
When the police declined to offer a financial reward in September 2022, the family organized a fundraising effort themselves. They set up a Give You a Little page to raise funds for a reward.
They aimed to raise $10,000. The public record shows they raised approximately half of that amount, but the family stated they would provide the remainder themselves.
It really indicates the family felt a desperate need to take independent action because the official channels were stalling.
The nature of the case drastically changed the following year, in 2023.
This is the major transition. This is where it goes from a missing persons case, or even a fugitive case, to active, aggressive criminality. In May 2023, there was an incident in Te Kuiti involving a bank.
It was an aggravated robbery. Phillips was subsequently charged with unlawful possession of a firearm and shooting at a supermarket worker during his escape from the scene.
And there was photographic evidence from the scene. It showed the offender, confirmed as Phillips, with an accomplice.
That accomplice was believed by authorities to be one of the children,
which completely altered the profile of the case for the public and the police. It crosses a major line. It suggests the active involvement of a child in violent criminal activity.
It raises serious questions about the psychological environment the children were living in. Participating in an armed robbery suggests they were strictly following instructions and were part of an operational unit Phillips had created.
It changes the entire risk assessment for the police. Knowing a child is present and potentially active in the crime makes any tactical intervention much more complicated.
The activity continued a few months later.
August 2023. On August 2, Phillips was spotted at two different Bunnings stores, one in South Hamilton and one in Te Rapa.
The specific items purchased are highly relevant to understanding their ongoing survival strategy.
We have the list from the records. He bought headlamps, batteries, seedlings, buckets, and gumboots.
The purchase of seedlings is the most telling detail. It implies he was not merely camping temporarily, but establishing an active food source.
Right, you don't buy plants to grow if you're moving every 3 days.
Exactly. Buckets and gumboots are standard equipment for establishing a campsite intended for long-term use in the New Zealand bush. Headlamps suggest they were primarily active at night to avoid visual detection.
Darkness provides that cover. It allows for movement across farmland with far less risk. The batteries were obviously for the lights, which means they didn't have a fixed power source like a generator at their camps.
At the Bunnings in Te Rapa, the mother of the children, Kat, actually spotted Phillips.
This is a moment of just incredible high drama in the timeline. She saw his ute in the parking lot, and she followed him. She chased the vehicle.
He managed to evade her. It was later confirmed that the vehicle he was driving, a Toyota Hilux, had been reported stolen.
That stolen ute was eventually recovered near Te Anga on August 4. The boldness of this is wild. Going to a major retail center in a stolen vehicle while being one of the most wanted men in the entire country.
It suggests a critical resource shortage. Supplies in the bush are finite. The risk calculation he made was evidently that he could acquire supplies and exit before an interdiction.
By the end of 2023, the situation involved armed robbery and the confirmed presence of the children in these public high-risk environments. The police had to escalate. In June 2024, they offered a significant government reward.
The offer was for 80,000 New Zealand dollars.
They also offered legal immunity for anyone who might have been assisting Phillips if they came forward with information.
This was a calculated attempt to dismantle any existing local support network by removing the legal risk of coming forward.
Then we get to a really significant sighting on October 3, 2024. Pig hunters spotted and filmed Phillips and the three children walking through Marokopa farmland.
The video footage provided critical visual data. It showed them wearing camouflage gear and walking in single file.
It was the first real proof of life in a long time. They were dressed to blend in, moving with real discipline.
Single file movement is a standard method for traversing dense bush to minimize noise and reduce the physical trail left behind.
The hunters actually did not engage with them at all because Phillips was clearly carrying a gun.
That decision not to engage was tactically sound. Confronting an armed fugitive in isolated bush could easily result in casualties.
It gave the police a confirmed recent location to work from. A massive 3-day search immediately followed, including military helicopters, but they found absolutely nothing significant.
The canopy density again proved to be an effective shield against aerial surveillance.
We jump forward now to August 2025. CCTV footage was released on August 27, showing Phillips and a child attempting to break into a store in Piopio.
It was later clarified that elite military forces were involved in the tracking operations around this time.
Right, because initial police statements had specifically ruled out NZSS involvement to supposedly protect the children. But the later records confirmed that 4 NZSS personnel did actually assist police in tracking.
Their specialized tracking capabilities were deemed necessary given the duration and the terrain.
This brings us to the final confrontation. September 8, 2025. We have a detailed moment-by-moment account of this final night.
The location was the PGG Wrightson Rural Supply Store in Piopio.
An alarm was triggered in the very early morning. The suspects, which were Phillips and one of the children, fled the scene on a quad bike.
The choice of a rural supply store fits the established pattern. These stores stock practical goods, outdoor clothing, and agricultural tools necessary for bush survival.
And the quad bike makes sense, too. To navigate farm tracks that a standard police car just can't handle, they travel along Te Unga Road.
Te Unga Road is a sealed surface, making a quad bike highly exposed and relatively slow compared to pursuit vehicles.
Police deployed road spikes. The quad bike hit them and became totally incapacitated. A constable approached the bike to make the arrest.
At that moment, Phillips fired a high-powered rifle as the officer exited the patrol car.
The officer was hit multiple times. He sustained severe injuries, including injuries to the eye, and had to immediately take cover.
Firing immediately upon the vehicle stopping indicates a predetermined decision by Phillips not to surrender. It represents the ultimate escalation to lethal force.
A second police vehicle arrived on the scene right after and engaged Phillips. During that exchange, Phillips was shot dead.
The first child, the one present on the quad bike, was recovered immediately at the scene. The injured officer was airlifted to Waikato Hospital.
Later that same day, September 8th, the search urgently focused on finding the remaining 2 children. They were located at a remote campsite in deep bush, which was approximately 2 kilometers from the shooting site.
The operation to secure the campsite involved 50 personnel.
When they found the camp, it wasn't a simple rescue. There was a standoff. One of the children was actually armed with a rifle.
Police Special Tactics Group negotiators were deployed to manage the situation and convince the armed child to drop the weapon.
And here's a crucial detail from the records. The child who had been with Phillips during the shootout on the road was brought in to help negotiators. That child helped convince the siblings to surrender peacefully.
Utilizing a trusted sibling's voice is a highly effective de-escalation tactic in crisis negotiations. It communicates safety in a manner law enforcement personnel cannot replicate.
When the police finally secured the area, the description of the campsite was striking. The reports call it grim, dimly lit, and surrounded by incredibly dense brush.
It contained established structures, indicating it had been occupied for a significant period. Living in the New Zealand bush year-round requires constant physical labor just to maintain basic shelter and stay dry.
The investigation later revealed the sheer scale of their survival logistics. Police found 2 additional hidden campsites located north and east of Marokopa.
The records confirm the group traveled frequently between these multiple camps to continually evade detection.
In late 2025, the aftermath of this 4-year saga began to unfold. The immediate family reaction was largely relief that it was over, but obviously mixed with trauma.
The mother of the children, Catherine Christie, publicly expressed her relief and stated her sympathy and aroha for the wounded police officer.
The children were immediately placed in the care of Oranga Tamariki, which is the Ministry for Children. Phillips's own parents, Neville and Julia, actually issued a public apology for their son's actions in the King Country News.
The extended family often bears a significant secondary burden in high-profile cases, facing intense public scrutiny.
Then came the legal conflicts regarding the media coverage. Injunctions were quickly granted to prevent the publication of highly sensitive investigation details.
These injunctions are a standard legal mechanism when minors are involved, prioritizing the protection of their identities to facilitate psychological recovery.
There was massive controversy over a documentary that was being made titled The Marokopa Project. The family lawyer and the filmmakers clashed heavily over the potential re-traumatization of the children.
It was also revealed during this time that a film crew had actually accompanied the police on Operation Curly throughout much of 2025.
On November 27, 2025, the government officially announced a public inquiry. This is being led by Justice Simon Moore Casey.
The primary mandate of the inquiry is to investigate if government agencies took all appropriate and necessary steps to ensure the safety of the children throughout the 4-year period.
It's going to look closely at the coordination between the police, the courts, and social services. Did they share information effectively? Was the risk assessment actually accurate at every single stage of the manhunt?
Systemic inquiries of this nature are designed to evaluate decision-making processes. They determine if alternative protocols could have mitigated the risks based on the intelligence available at the time.
So as you review this entire timeline from the source material, you see a slow, steady progression from a family dispute into an absolute tragedy. It serves as a stark record of how a situation can deteriorate so completely over time when isolation, survivalism, and access to weapons are all combined.
It is a definitive case study in behavioral escalation and evasion logistics.
We have provided a comprehensive overview of the events from September 2021 to the conclusion in late 2025. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When an adult disappears into the wilderness with their own children, at what exact point does the right to live off the grid legally and morally cross over into child endangerment? The legal line in this case was drawn by a missed court date, but the moral line is something society is still trying to define.
The parameters of parental authority versus state intervention remain a complex issue.
Thanks for listening.